child. We gonna get a knoll with fins?
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
An aquatic
was-
knoll? I'm down. Hi.
Hi.
Fishy, wet hyena? Yes.
I'm on board.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we're just talking about the possibility of a new race.
Oh, hybrid race. All right. Oh, I know where that went. Okay. Yep.
Yep.
Nope. I'm on now. I'm in the one brain cell. Okay.
You putting that two and two together?
It's called a hark knoll, or knolark,
Or
Carl.
Nacarl?
No, Carl.
Dogfish.
Dogfish.
There you go.
Dogfish.
Dogfish. Just dogfish. Oh my god, that's where they came from. Guys, created a new species that evolved over the centuries and turned into the dogfish we know and love today. Oh my god. A narc.
A narc.
A narc with a G. I like
But
that
the G
much better.
the G isn't silent. It's a good narc.
A good narc. I approve. Hi guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to another wonderful episode of Behold Lore. I am your hostess, Zoro4Me3, my lore masters, Roger Quest and HBFox, and we have some special episodes coming up both today and probably the next, I would say 3 or 4, roughly. This is me guesstimating. Where we're going to be talking to 2 guests, so it might be a slightly longer episode, ever so slightly. We'll see where it goes. Where the first half, instead of doing our usual topic and then second half with the guest mentions, the first half we're going to be talking to one character and the second half to another character as we discuss the epilogues of Destiny Forged Season 2, as we were not able to fully express that. We did have a group chat last year with everyone where we talked about the characters in general during the campaign, and we all got to ask other questions and everything too. That was really cool, but that was during the campaign. Well, this is more of the aftermath. What happens? You probably still ask questions of like what happened in between, but you know, it's the epilogue version, as it were. So if you have any questions in chat, we will definitely read them, answer them for you here. Rojan, I believe, has some plans for certain things, so I think for the most part, we can pretty much reveal most of everything, but we'll see.
Unless I said anything to you guys when you sent me the epilogues, it's free game to talk about.
Yeah, from the player perspective, I don't think at this point there's anything that we would have any reason to keep secret. Because I mean, anything that's happening in our stories now is many, many years after the fact. So
Yeah.
shouldn't be anything that's kept secret, but you never know.
My epilogue pretty much spanned from between the 60 or so years between Destiny Forged 2 and 3, so it's kind of fills up that whole length,
Yeah,
obviously.
mine are kind of the same, with one of them being like fairly ambiguous. So
spoiler alert, one of them's dead.
yeah,
Just because of lifespan reasons. Racial lifespans.
Yeah, sorry guys. Zael, she was not meant for this world at this point.
Everybody in Zael's family is technically immortal except Zael.
This is awkward.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. It's Zael. She probably wouldn't want to live much longer beyond their normal lifespan anyway.
I think she was an older Null to begin with anyway, wasn't she?
She was getting up there, yep.
Yeah, so, you know. Yeah. Speaking of, the guest today we're starting off is actually myself and HBFox, as we discuss, technically characters, Ash and Zael, but also dip into, if we so choose, the other characters. I technically have something for my backup character, but it's very like vague because I don't know what you got planned for him. And then
Keep it hidden. Keep it hidden for your backup character, because spoiler alert, we're going to be going back to that land, digging up another mini campaign for a new crew to be exploring that land after the 60 years of continuance.
So Jolvoth may be coming back, guys. We don't know. We'll find out. He was an interesting character. Um,
Oh man.
uh,
So I didn't have a backup character. Does this mean I get to play one of Zael's kids in that campaign?
I would allow it.
um,
I'm in.
technically, you kind of have to because your fire knoll is immortal at this point. Well, I shouldn't say immortal, but longer lived because Max
And level
Druid.
20.
And
Yeah,
and
level
level
20.
20.
I don't think he's gonna let us be level 20 unless
No, that's for something else
that's fair. That is fair. But yeah, so of course, going back and forth between Zael and Keo, of course, since you did technically play both characters. Uh so yeah. So because I'm the hostess and I never like to go first because my job is to go last as I so choose. So HBFox, you're gonna start us off for the first half as we delve into what happened. We'll start with Zael first, actually, um, with the remainder of Zael's years. As some of you may need a small refresher, Zael decided to retire, so to speak, from adventuring and decided to continue being the matriarch of her clan. And as we mentioned before, she was a bit of an older gnoll. She, did have pups and everything. She did have a mate and all that. And she still was actually still very much involved in the group. I remember sending messages to Zael. We even met Zael, I think, a couple times. Not I think, I'm just guessing, was it 2 or 3 times, something like that, where we did actually come back to Zael and had some conversations, let her know what's going on and all that good stuff. So we pretty much left off with her just being in charge of her clan. And of course, we dipped a little bit into that and seeing her authority in No Way Out in our little campaign that technically took place after Destiny Forged too. But again, that was just a little peek at her ruling her clan. So HBFox, tell us, what has Zael been up to? Was up to. Sorry.
Spoilers. Yeah. Zael continues to focus on what she spent the last couple years of the campaign building, which is a place for her people, the Gnolls, and a place for her new empire in the global economy of the world. With the recent threats no longer pressing down on that part of the world, she's able to oversee the rebuilding of the Colosseum to start. And once that's completed, right. Yeah, she wastes no time in sending invitations across the land for the first annual tournament to be held there.
I do have a question real quick.
Yes.
Is that technically the tournament we all hold when we do the Battle Royale?
No, it would not be.
Darn it.
That's
true, because it'd be different characters. Never mind.
It's
darn it.
Think of it like that tournament will be like the Dragon Ball Super tournament.
Yeah, and so the annual tournaments that are held at the Colosseum are kind of like the Gnolls' way of having diplomatic parties, like how we had that gala in Kaskar. The tournaments at the Colosseum are essentially like the Gnolls' version of that. It's a testament of strength and bonding with the other nations that are invited to it. So once that's kind of off the ground, a little closer to home, she appoints a new sect of Gnolls in charge of, for the first time ever, recording their history in written form. And rules of ascension for future matriarchs are written for the first time as well, though they're largely unchanged from how they've always been, with the exception of an addition that Zael has added. And that addition is that every matriarch from this point forward must add their blood to a cistern that's kept in the center of Wraith's Cast. And every new matriarch must undergo the Blood Hunter's Rite, imbibing a poison crafted from the combined blood of the cistern. And that is, it eventually comes to be seen as like a way for past matriarchs to pass down a part of themselves to those that are next in line, and to weed out the ones that are unwilling to face death for their people. Because those that aren't aware, when you take the blood hunters right, you could just straight up die instead of becoming a blood hunter.
It's very Dragon Age.
It is
drink
very,
the blood of the dark
very Dragon
spawn.
Age.
Yeah.
You could be cool and you could just die.
Very, very Dragon Age or very Witcher with the Trial of Grasses.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that too. Yep.
So beyond that, she also works very hard to establish safe trade routes through the heart of the desert, not just to help the cities of the east reach the western coast, but to further solidify the importance of Wraith's Cast as the only safe passage through the desert. And it's not glorious work being a politician, and I'm sure throughout the years Zael complains about it every chance she gets, oftentimes through the Marble Network to anyone that's still listening. But she believes it's what's right for her people, so she never slows down, even as her years press on. Every time a delegate wishes to meet, every time a city extends an invitation, she insists on personally traveling and meeting with these people. By the time she hits the age of 51, which is quite old for a Knoll, she gets an unexpected surprise in the form of another pup. That makes number 4 for those that are counting. It's entirely unplanned, but no less loved than her other children. And she names this new pup Nea.
What is the age gap between the current pups and the new one?
So her first, Zayla, there is a just over a year difference between her and the twins that she had right after.
Yes.
And then between the twins and Nea is a 15-year difference.
Wow.
Yeah.
That be a gap.
That'd be a gap.
Okay.
Nea was
Oh,
not
gal
planned.
still got it.
not planned, but you know how Knolls are.
Yes. Actually, no, I slept through the whole thing.
Well,
I was gonna say that was the introduction of the sleepy time tea.
The fact that you needed to sleep through it, I think, tells you enough of how Knolls are. But by the time Zael reaches the ripe old age of 55, her position as matriarch is challenged by her middle daughter, Arta, who's about 20 years old at this point.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's a fight.
Not even Zaela.
A fight between them that lasts for the better part of a day. And it's one that Zael ultimately loses. And after surviving the matriarch's rite, the title and ceremonial weapon is handed off to Arta.
Not Zaela.
Not Zayla.
Does she not want the position?
Zayla is too much of a softie to be matriarch.
Oh, yeah. That would make sense.
Arta very much takes after Zael.
Is Arta the one who was stealing the axe in
in
North Out?
Which one? No, I think that was Zael or Zayla. Zayla is kind-hearted but like super mischievous.
Gotcha. Okay.
Whereas Arta is like very much matriarch material through and through.
And what class is Arta?
Arta, well, turns out to be a blood hunter after she survives the rite.
Yeah.
I haven't thought
Doesn't
that
mean she be a multi-class.
far ahead because I didn't know if I'd ever actually play any of them or involve any of them in stories where they're actually involved enough to be a set class, but it's always something I can craft later. Arta is unique though in that her fur is jet black across her entire body.
Oh.
And she uses a lot of like gold makeup for markings and stuff on her. So she's a sight to behold within a clan of, mostly browns and stuff like that.
Yeah. What, did Zayla ever end up with Yixis?
You'll have to wait until No Way Out 2.
Okay, that's fair. That is fair.
Because I do have plans to further those stories. But that is something that I'm holding on to until either we actually have a No Way Out 2, or I decide that it could fit somewhere else within one of these stories.
That's fair. And to be honest, she could still be alive too, because well, actually no. If depending on timeline, technically she would have just recently passed and a new matriarch would have taken up Dagger Tree at this point.
That's the thing with these children.
Zayla, never mind. Never mind.
Arta, and the other twin, Anik, all have the blood of the librarian in them.
Yeah.
Nea does not, because the librarian had left Yith by that point. But the first 3 of the 4 children do.
Yeah, that's... So, would she... How do I word this? She technically could rule forever, but would there have been a law or just morals in her mind to pass it on at some point? To have more matriarchs have a chance?
So there's no law in regards to that. And let's be honest, with Noel's morals are questionable at best.
True, but she could be challenged.
But she could, at any point, by any Noel, be challenged for the position.
Is she the current ruler right now?
I think she is, yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, she's been ruling for... maybe 30-ish years at this point?
Yeah, at this point, it would
maybe
be...
40.
Somewhere between 30 and 40. I'd have to sort out the timeline stuff to get a specific number.
Good.
But yeah, somewhere between 30 and 40.
Yeah. If she was a regular Noel, she
would be reaching,
I said, probably would have been
the retirement age. At
either the
point.
retirement age or just past, depending on her life situation, and then a new matriarch. So fairly early on. So yeah. Oh, wow.
So once that title and stuff is handed off, it naturally Zael sticks around to grumble about several of the new matriarch's decisions, like many older generations do when a younger one takes over.
Of course.
But she knows that the Dagger Tree Empire is in good hands. And just 2 short years after Zael is free from the political leash, and like so many Noels before her burning the candle at both ends, she closes her eyes one final time as her candle is also extinguished. Now, Noels don't bury their dead in graves. That's just not a thing that they do. But at her request, Zael is put to rest near the border of the Mirage Desert underneath a lone tree in an unmarked grave next to the bones of her father.
Aww. Thank you for the resub, by the way. Aww. Sorry, moment.
Sad resub.
Sad resubs. Not that the resub was sad, just sad moment when the resub happened. So with that, I actually do have a couple of questions that it's mostly about Dagger Tree as a whole, but it was during Zael's rule. Part of it was how Dagger Tree is prospering. You did kind of delve into that as what Zael did to do to help make Dagger Tree stronger, especially since she started making her own coins with that poor elf to make your own currency and everything like that, like a sovereign nation.
Hey, elves live a long time. He's probably still there.
He still is, yeah, probably. So my follow-up to that then is, how do the Gnolls of Dagger Tree react to these new laws and connections, as well as things starting to be in written word? Because they normally don't educate themselves on that. They're just like, whatever, it's all that. So how do they feel about all this?
The whole being able to write stuff down in their own language is still a fairly new thing to them.
Mm-hmm.
The written Null language is like a brand new thing when the campaign was going on. And it's a difficult thing to do, to change the ideals of a culture that has been so ingrained in their own history and rituals for so long. But she manages to do it. With everything that had happened in the world at the end of the campaign, she had gained enough clout, essentially, with her clan that, though there is many of them that pushed back hard against her new laws and everything, the majority of them did give her the benefit of the doubt, essentially. They recognized that the lifestyle that they were leading up to that point was destroying their clan slowly but surely.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, well, we can keep doing what we're doing, knowing that we're about to be wiped out, or we can try this one last Hail Mary thing and listen to the new matriarch. So it was slow going, but they got there eventually.
And especially since Zael is the type of Knoll, kind of 50-50, both traditional, but like, no, we need to progress. We need to stop being like this, but still honors tradition. That I think between that and already proving her strength, that she would have that much clout, I would think anyways, where they're just like, okay, well, yeah, she's got that Knoll ferocity to kind of back up this other stuff that's new to us. So I can see where a good chunk of them would be like, okay, this is new, but all right.
and that was something that she strived to do as they were kind of brought into this new era, keeping their traditions and keeping what made them Knolls, but updating it for the modern age instead of just being the savages that they always have been. Like the desert, that was one thing that she always promised to her people that they would maintain, that was their territory and nobody was going to take it from them. And so she maintained that even by establishing those trade routes through the desert. Like, yes, people can use these trade routes, but we are the ones that look over them. We are the ones that keep them clear of like bandits and all that, because this is our territory. So that helped a lot in persuading all the other Knolls to go along with it.
Which is good. It's a very large piece of territory, so I'm sure they're very happy
is,
with
and
that.
it's not one that a lot of races can survive in for an extended period of time. So, I mean, it's the only thing that kept them from being wiped out is the desert just played havoc with the machines and stuff of Arcastus too much for them to push too deep into the desert in their war. So Knolls are already there. They might as well stay there.
I do have a question about another desert location. Now that she is the new matriarch, does that mean that Arda gains control of Fort Zael?
Yes.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So there's a number of things.
No, that's our fort. That's our group fort. Fuck that bitch.
There's a number of things. I'd have to look at the inventories to remember exactly what they are, but there's a number of things that get passed down from Zael to Arda. One of them, obviously, the axe, the matriarch's axe. Another one is the crystal ball that controls Fort Zael and changes it to the holder's desires. And another one is that skull that Zael had that like ripped her skeleton out of her and basically turned it into a duplicate.
Yep.
That's true.
That's something that gets passed down to the next matriarch as well.
I'm happy that gets passed down because I love that.
Oh, I loved it so much. I really, really wanted to give it to Keo just so I could keep using it in the campaign, but I couldn't justify Zael doing that.
Yeah,
giving
fair.
giving Keo that item and just having it like create like a flaming skeleton duplicate, like it's out of Doom or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I should have just gone to Fort Zael and grabbed her bed and sheets and be like, mine! You don't get to take this. Wanders off.
I mean, the group
speaking-
still has the other place.
I
that's
forged
true.
I forged those admiralty documents myself.
I lied my ass off to get this far. I'm keeping it. Which reminds me, before Zael's final days, like how often did she travel to see any of them, or any kind of interactions with them aside from the Marble Network?
The Narble Network.
The Narble Network. The Narble Network.
When she was still matriarch, she traveled every opportunity she got, for diplomatic reasons, and also just because, you know, you can't go years as an adventurer and then suddenly just stop traveling altogether. But by the time she lost the position of matriarch, all her traveling kind of stopped at that point. Just because she was so old and she was starting to lose her eyesight again at that point in her life. So it was just too hazardous for her to attempt to travel anywhere. But she always welcomed visitors.
Okay. Perfect. So we'll move on a little bit to Keo for just a moment. Keo being, of course, a druid, I assume made her at least a level 18 druid, if nothing else.
Yep.
So what has she been doing with her strange, prolonged life now? Did she ever hook up with that Carl? Like, officially? And had narcs? Good
Had
narcs.
Gunarks. So by the end of the campaign, Keo just kind of finds herself a bit lost at first. Like in her heart, she knows that she was made for war and crafted as a weapon to be used against Arcastus's invading armies, but with no war raging and no world-threatening force to fight against, she just kind of feels purposeless. And
Aw.
for the next like several years after the end of the campaign, she really has no long-term ambitions or desires. So she just kind of wanders for a while.
Oh.
She does spend some time back in the city of the Hakarl, and she eagerly answers the call of anyone on the Marble Network. And she does as well. I wrote this into her epilogue as a minor point, but there's a lot more to it. She does take a couple trips to the elemental plane of fire.
Gee, I wonder why.
I wonder why. And obviously she has fire immunity at that point, so she can do that without burning up.
Right.
But she does always find herself eventually coming back to the desert, though she rarely spends time in Wraith's Cast or New Daggertree. Instead, she spends her time in the desert diligently working on a project. She has begun to dig tunnels underneath the crystal volcano that she erupted from the desert near the end of the campaign.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh no, what is she doing?
So, and the entrance to it, it's not like a hidden network or anything. The entrance to it is like right smack in the middle of the volcano as well. And over time, this develops into a big cavernous system. And she always comes back to expand it further. Once the tunnels and caverns are large enough, though, she does finally make use of the diamonds that she had Rex purchase for her back in the city of the Carl, like right before the big fight at the end. And she uses every single one of them to cast True Resurrection to give life back to the creature that she had given a brief glimpse of life to in the fight against Vincent.
Was that the little
The Hydra.
thing?
The Hydra,
Oh my
yeah.
god.
And
So you have a pet Hydra?
once it's back,
Oh,
she
no.
offers the caverns to it as a safe place for it to reside.
Oh my god. What did she name the Hydra? I have to know.
It's Keo. She didn't name the Hydra.
So it's just Hydra? Hello, Hydra.
it's
Mama's
just-
home.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't. Hydras aren't the smartest creatures, so like I didn't establish if it was even like passive to her or if it just like aggroed to her immediately once it was revived. But I mean, it was passive to her after she had created it, birthed it in a very like alien type way.
Yeah.
So
don't get that
I'd
scene
like
at
to
all.
assume that it was passive to her, but she didn't name it or anything like that. It's its own thing. If it wants a name, it can figure out its own name.
How many heads does it have?
That depends on how many foolish adventurers tried to kill it.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
How many does a Hydra normally have? It's like 5 when they start out?
Yeah.
Then they start off with 5.
So I'm going to say, yeah, it's got 5 heads. Between those 5 heads, it can figure out its own name.
There you go. I'm just gonna make a joke I found recently where you just named it as Eeny, Meeny, Miny, and Fred. What about Mo? No, she didn't want no Mo. That's all you had. Sorry. Okay, well, that's interesting. So what happens then between, like, her and Rex then, if she goes back to occasionally visit?
So, at some point, speaking of all these people that she once knew or continues to know, at some point she does make an effort, albeit a awkward one because it's Keo, to reconnect with Dust and Callistra. If anybody remembers those NPCs. See, the Hydra wasn't the only child that Keo had in the campaign.
Jesus, that was the one that you, like, power...
Yeah, I did the time
skip
advancement thing on it.
Oh god, yeah, I remember. That was that was on the island. That was our casino island.
And after reconnecting with them, she like eagerly shows off the ever expanding project beneath the desert that she's been working on.
Mm-hmm.
And she also does make a point to visit the crystal tree memorial that she had crafted in Malorsic for Tiras. She visits it on the same day every year.
What day?
I'd have to look at the calendar. I don't remember the day that
she
made
death
it.
or the day she made it?
It was the day that she made it that she goes back to.
And that was in the desert. That's right.
That was in Malorsic. Because she had
was in the desert. I thought she had her angry fit in the desert.
She went to the desert to have her angry fit, but that's when she was pulled back, and then calm emotions was used on her.
Yeah.
And that's why that one guy got pretty much tortured.
Yeah, that's why he got eaten alive at the end of that.
Yeah, we did a couple really bad shit to people.
Well, you know what? A couple people did really bad shit to us. So
yeah, but the guy that's like died literally from the darkness that Rose did.
Well, yeah, I don't think anyone's defending that one, except for Rose.
Yeah.
Rose is just like, it doesn't count because it was funny and nobody saw me do it.
Yeah, that is true. Nobody saw her do it. But yeah,
exactly.
Beyond that, she had no grand plans for her immediate future. And even at this point, she hasn't yet really discovered that her lifespan has increased tenfold. Like, she's aware that
she's like 80 right now.
She's aware that something's awry, but she was also never the most intelligent person. And she doesn't follow like a typical druid creed or anything, so she doesn't know the history of druids and archdruids and what their abilities are. So Like she knows something's up, but she doesn't know what that something is. So that's a trauma she has yet to deal with. And she does stay with Rex for as long as he can tolerate her.
Which, how long
There,
is that, Virgin?
I think Rex is the same way. Rex is pretty much as long as like she can tolerate him.
yeah,
They
Oh,
are
there you go.
together. They are pretty much chaos incarnate.
they really are, and their relationship, I think, continues being as casual and as heated as it always has been. And alluding to how we started the show, maybe one day we'll see what a half a Carl, half Noel looks like. Maybe we won't. I don't know.
It's just a fuzzy shark. That's all it is.
A fuzzy shark.
With a muzzle. That's all it is.
A fuzzy shark or a scaly Noel?
It's like the cat with no hair, whatever that breed's called.
Yeah,
but
there you go.
it's a Noel just with skin. It's just with the shark skin.
Yeah.
No,
That actually no.
no,
No, I don't like that.
No.
I don't like that at all.
It's like the pictures of the hairless bears that are out there. Yeah.
No.
So, yeah, I mean, beyond that, Keo is still just kind of looking for things to fill her days with, looking for a purpose beyond the destruction that she was created for. Maybe she'll hop back aboard the Sister Carnage or try to hitch a ride on one of Admiral Tickles' boats one of these days, see what lies beyond the ocean. I don't know. She's got a lot of time left, so there's certainly a lot of stories left there to tell.
Very loosey-goosey at the moment.
Yeah.
She's young in her druidic years right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Admiral Tickles now. Of course, if anyone in chat has any questions, of course we can we'll certainly answer them. Roshan, do you have any questions for HBFox?
Because Keo is Keo. If Keo actually did have any children, would Keo name them? Or would Keo just let them name themselves?
I think Keo would probably just let them name themselves.
Oh, God.
Or just let Rex name them. Just be like, yeah, whatever. I mean, it's Keo. It's not that she's callous and uncaring. It's that she doesn't really understand what the depth of being a caring person involves. I mean, she, I think, has shown that she does care deeply for the rest of the crew, and the relationship that she had with Tyrus, or rather that she was maybe too afraid to have with Tyrus, shows that, you know, there's stuff beneath the surface there, but she doesn't know how to process those feelings properly. So it comes off in a very callous and uncaring way, even though that's not the case.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is she would have narcs with Rex.
I mean, she might.
I think maternal instincts would kind of kick in. Maybe. If she birthed them herself, anyway.
It's hard to say, because her only experience of a mother is her own mother, and her own mother was the architect of the ritual that bound her to that soul from the elemental plane of fire.
Yeah.
So, not the greatest motherly influence to refer to.
Ezrin does have a question, though, if the Coatil Shrine is still in Daggertree.
Yeah, Zael wouldn't do anything to stop that. Zael thinks that it's important for the Gnolls to choose their own path when it comes to religion and beliefs and deities and stuff. I mean, there are, like everything, lines that aren't permitted to be crossed, lines that would endanger the settlements. But as far as like freedom of religion goes, it is in Wraithcast and Daggertree as it is in the rest of the world.
Yeah, and it's just very confusing to some people who do pass through there, because it's a bunch of gnolls worshiping a sea god. at a shrine to the base of a freshwater oasis. So none of it makes any sort of sense to them.
Noel comes back. I'm a follower of Lathander. No.
Okay, no, they are being kicked out.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
You did say certain lines, so that's the line right there.
That's the line.
Roger's
You can
gonna have his
worship
ammo now.
anyone you want,
Except
but if you
Lathander.
worship Lathander, you're not allowed to come back home.
So since Zael was officially buried, she's turning in her grave if someone comes back.
Yep.
It's like...
She will rise back up as a witherling if she has to put a stop to that.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Rosa did want to elaborate a little bit about the maternal instincts of Keo. She revived the Hydra, so she shows that she cares, but she doesn't feel motherly about it or her actual kids.
Well, again, it's not that she doesn't feel motherly or doesn't care, but naming is just, it's not a thing that would occur to her. Like, she may have these children or these creatures that she sees as children, and she may feel those maternal instincts towards them, but and this also comes partly from just being a gnoll. Naming them isn't a part of those instincts because naming itself is still a fairly new thing to their culture.
Yeah.
Previously, gnolls, I mean, they just knew each other by sight, scent, and sound. They didn't communicate in proper sentences with naming conventions and all that, so it's just not something that would occur to her. And she would, introduce them as, these are my kids, but it wouldn't be like this is, name and name. This is just, these are my kids.
Now, how did the gnolls feel about playdates of Dean Ratlings and Dampier dragon orcs and God knows what other children we have birds all playing together?
I don't think they'd really be bothered by it. Gnolls...
Natural.
Gnolls aren't natural, so anything that's not natural to them, is some, really fucked up stuff.
Yeah.
So, I think, I don't think any of the gnolls would be all that bothered by it or even really give it a second glance.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff, especially in their recent history, that was just kind of glossed over for sensitive reasons. But when it comes to the war, they were not good people. I mean, neither of the sides of that conflict were in the right, but I mean, gnolls were truly embracing their savagery in that conflict, and that's a really recent event. So there's not going to be a whole lot that really phases them yet.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Give it time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, give it time.
Oh, good.
As they become softer over generations, things will change, but it's all still fairly fresh.
All right. So we're actually getting close to the end here for this first segment. Rojan, did you have anything else you wanted to ask, or anything else you guys wanted to ask?
Nothing yet.
Dot. Okay.
Oh, I will be reaching out to some people as the idea I have.
Oh, okay.
The new characters begins to flesh out a bit more.
Ooh. That's exciting. I'm excited because this is news to me, and I'm very excited to bring in a Destiny Forged 2.5 in
Well,
between.
yeah, because it's I look at the map, and there's just so many locations on the map that nobody ever touched.
It's very true. It's not that I don't think we didn't want to. I just think we just we had a lot going on and not enough time to do it, I suppose. I really wanted to go to the Frigid Crown. I wanted to see what was up there.
Yeah, I've been working on something that I haven't mentioned to anybody yet, but I'm working on a system for cataloging all of our world lore and stuff. And within that system, I'm able to place our maps and then like place pins on our maps that people can like click on and go to get more information about these locations. And recently I placed all the pins on the map of Talendra. And I'm sitting there like, there's like 50 plus locations on this map. We visited
even realize.
maybe like 10 to 15 of them.
No, we did not.
And that's
Yeah.
only on the surface of Talendra.
Yep.
There are societies that are underneath Talendra as well that you guys just did not discover.
There's
Yep.
a lot of places we passed through too. Like we didn't really stay too much. Like Port Vassal, we were there for like not even a day. We kept going. Port Passing, we were there for a little bit, but like
Glimmer
yeah, there's a lot
Cross,
of
you were
places like it.
Glimmer Cross, you were literally there for about a day and a half, and then you got chased out of town because a certain someone sort of popped somebody open like a Capri Sun. And well,
No, that wasn't my fault. We were attacked
course not.
first. Just saying.
So this is, I'm sorry, folks in chat, you don't get to see any of this because it's still secret. But I'm going to drop a screenshot here in our Behold Lore chat on Discord of the map of Talendra with all the pins on it. We've
oh my
only
god,
visited
it's so Skyrim.
about 10 to 15 of those. And
God.
that isn't even all of them. I still have like just under 10 more to place on there as well.
Oh my gosh. I love how it looks like looking at a Skyrim map.
Yeah, it's really nice because you can like zoom in on locations as well, and like the pins adjust their size so they're not covering half the map or anything. It's really
Oh
nice.
my
I'm looking
God.
forward to getting this finished so I can share it with everyone.
Excuse me while I
and I'm looking forward to, adding more things on the map.
Because again, there's a lot that we still haven't explored. So yeah, and it was fun
Yeah.
kind of building that map on top of while we were playing the game, and we're kind of doing that with campaign 3 as well. It's just really fun seeing this map become so bare with just a few points of interest and then just expanding from it. It's so cool.
Yeah, and I do at some point need to redraw the map of Talendra like from scratch because that's an old version of it. By the end of the campaign, there were several edits that needed to be made that I just didn't do because we were at the end of the campaign.
Yeah.
So the map is slightly different from what I posted in that screenshot, but
It's so
I'm excited for it. I'm excited to get back into that land at some point because it's just so much.
I miss it because that was my first major D&D campaign, so it's like it's very near and dear for me. And there's still a lot we still did not.
Personally, I
Go
want to go back and give more love to artists because you guys weren't there for that long and you didn't really get to see how hyper advanced that society is with like the combination of technology and
Yeah,
it's like while everyone else was like living in like medieval style cities, here they are with a monorail system.
Yeah, and we didn't even get close enough to see the gates of Arcanum either.
No.
Which is a massive gate that goes right across that bay. And we didn't even get close enough to see it, let alone visit it ourselves.
Well, because we were there to go to the library, did some investigation on where this crown was, and by then we found out Sven escaped and was going to potentially kill some people, and we were like, we need to fucking go. So yeah, unfortunately the events made us only stay there for I think like a day, maybe a day and a half. We didn't stay no, we did spend the night. I do remember we lodged up in Tickle's old place, but yeah, we were there for a day and a half.
And with the surge that's happened now with like the ley lines and everything, there is a lot of magical chaos that's now happening on the surface of these continents now.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens with that. That's gonna be fun to look into. So TBD on when that's gonna be, guys. But for now, before we take a quick little break to move on to the second part, HBFox, do you want to wrap up with any final thoughts or little tidbits about Keo or Zael? Like about Yith or anything, maybe?
Yith, I think at this point is like his entire story is in the hands of Rojan, because much like season 1 of Destiny Forged, I created a backup character. Season 1 it was Avara, season 2 it was Yith, and then that backup character was immediately handed off to Rojan and became a major NPC. And so Rojan has had control of that story ever since. So anything to do with him, I think, is in Rojan's hands.
That's fair. That's fair. Did he ever get a prosthetic arm, by the way? Because I remember he didn't for the longest time. He just was like completely content not having a prosthetic or anything.
Nope. Still has the missing arm.
Okay. I was just curious if he just changed his mind, or he got a mechanical arm or something. I don't know, or magically enchanted arm.
Nope.
Okay.
Even though it was technically the embodiment of a god for a while, and then technically an advanced life form after he and the librarian had been separated, he's still a Knoll, and he just sees that as just a symbol of his adventures.
That's fair.
He's not gonna replace it, even though it was a botch on somebody's side. I'm not pointing fingers. Ash.
You know what? Don't hate me when I was trying to save his life from being possessed and I nat 20'd on that fucker, okay? Don't hate me for saving his life.
That was your kill someone with a bottle moment.
Except he didn't die.
And
we stopped the ritual, didn't we?
And he was very understanding of it.
Yeah. A lot more understanding than Zael was.
I mean, Ash felt awful. Don't get me wrong. Ash felt awful, and we did several things to stop it beforehand. And when it wasn't working, Ash reacted, okay? And that's all I'm saying. She still feels absolutely awful about it. She's happy he's okay.
He lived. That's all that matters.
He lived. Yeah, that's all that mattered to her, too. She was like, well, if I can at least save his life, if a limb has to be sacrificed, then so be it. So, yeah. Okay, and with that, thank you so much, HBFox, on giving us a fun little peek as to what Zael and Keo has been up to. It'll be very interesting to see what we may see in the future of current or future campaigns with the children of Zael, as well as potentially Keo. So we'll see what happens. So for now, we're going to go ahead and take a quick little break, get up, stretch, go to the bathroom, get some refreshments, and we will be right back here for the last half of the, I almost said campaign, of the session. So this isn't a campaign, it's a talk show.
Lore campaign.
Lore campaign, there we go. So yeah, we'll be right back, guys. And we are back.
Welcome back.
Get back down. Here we go. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. As we move on to the second half, where this feels so weird tonight. Talk to me, guys. As we talk about Ash. So yeah, I guess it would be only appropriate to kind of go off and say what she's been up to. I pulled my notes as a refresher. So yeah, so some of you may or may not remember there was a whole scene between Ash and Zael about wanting to kind of change some things and perhaps get into her own type of politics and everything. And she actually took advice to heart, especially after discovering the Vampire Isles. And so basically, shortly after the party kind of split, she went back home, of course, to spend a very good amount of time that she lost with her children, hanging out with them and being a mother. And she started to read more on the politics and trade and whatnot, kind of study the same things her brother and father studied, as her brother took those maps that she acquired to go stay to the Vampire Isles and perhaps reestablish a connection between our family and just the Vampire Nation in general. So while he was away, he still did his duties as he was still technically heir, so he still did his duties. He just decided this was probably the next best step for the family as a whole to kind of get this connection. So she decided to kind of take over in his stead back at Fellock and become more serious. And though she was still her quirky self over the next 60 years, she does kind of mellow out a little bit. She still has that attitude, but she's definitely more mature at that point. And then of course, as you guys saw in Destiny Forged 3, her boys being 1/4 Dampier. They have long lives. They're still technically very, very young. By vampire standards, they're still in diapers by comparison. They're technically like 63, 64 technically at this point. So they're wee baboos technically. And of course, Turok still has the gnarled heart, so he's still alive and kicking, which is really good because at the time he was I'll have to pull it up. It's been a hot minute since I looked at this. So by the time he got the gnarled heart, he was 39 years old, which by most orc standards, he was getting pretty up there. Technically, orcs can live a really long time. I think they can live to be technically like 80, but most of them don't because much like gnolls, they're fighters. They tend to die off earlier. It's actually kind of a miracle if they reach like 45, 50. But since he had more of a hermit life, he probably would have lived long without the gnarled heart, at least like probably almost the length of an orc, I would think. But yeah, so he's still alive and kicking. He's still doing his thing. But I'm not going to go too much into detail because I don't know what Rojan has planned. Maybe, I don't know. But technically Rose has another child that she adopted.
Now, when you say Rose, you mean Ash, right?
I meant Ash. Sorry, I said Rose, didn't I? Ash.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second.
This just got awkward real quick.
Rose
Sorry.
just stole one of Ash's children.
She did. She's like, Auntie Rose is gonna take you. Know, shh. Just come with me. Sorry, Ash adopted a third child. That is definitely younger. I would say they're about 10, maybe 12 years younger than the twins. also a creature that has a long life due to its strange bloodline. But yeah, she did adopt a child. So she's got that. But of course, being young, she's still very, very young, of course. Almost 300 years old at this point. Still goes off to adventure whenever she can. Small adventures, of course. Maybe see if a few members want to get the band back together, do small adventures, or maybe just kind of go off on her own. That's within reason. She's not gonna like get in a fight with, like an ancient dragon or anything like that, as much as she would love to, but she knows better. So yeah, so she still goes off on adventures every so often, just kind of satisfy that itch. Definitely frequents everybody. She loves visiting everyone. She constantly visits Zael. She visits Rose and everyone else. She does visit Malorsic, and if she can't get time away, she definitely visits the anniversary of Tyrus's death, goes to his grave.
Does she accept Keo's invitation to come see the cavern system that she built underneath the volcano?
Oh, hell yeah. You're like, you want to see the crystal cavern? Oh, fuck yeah. She definitely does. Which is why I asked if you did it, like, if because I thought the tree was in the desert. So I'm like, okay, so she actually would have seen Keo, depending on what time of day. Maybe they're at the tomb. Well,
I imagine it's
the
kind of like
unmarked.
an all day thing.
Yeah, she would definitely spend several hours there, and of course it's a makeshift grave because of course there's no body, but she always makes sure she even pays the people of Malorsic there to make sure that no one takes that tower shield. She's like, that is the tomb marker that they used. They even like carved his name in there and everything, so it's like, no one touch this or I'll murder someone. I'll caprice son of a bitch. So she'll shine it up. She'll make sure it's taken care of. Still has that wonderful shine. She does the same exact thing to Zael. She still visits, of course, the family frequently. But, she always makes it a habit to go visit Zael at her grave. And I'm actually really happy that you said she had a grave. I'm like, oh, I did ask. Shit.
I debated. Because it, like, in my mind, gnolls, they make use of everything that they have, including their dead.
Yeah.
Whether it's using their bodies for meat or using their bones for rituals or whatever it happens to be. But because of everything that went down with Zael when she was younger, with her dad, it felt like a good ending for that.
Yeah, I really liked that. So I'm just happy that there's, granted, just like Tyrus, if there wasn't a body, she probably would have like made one in her honor to visit, maybe. But since there actually is a spot, she definitely frequents it, does the same thing, honors her memory and everything, and their friendship and time together. Of course, visits Tarashara and Rose in the Feywild and checks on them. Checks in on Molly too, of course, whenever she can, and everyone else. And you were pretty much her first friends, and she has a very strong familial bond with all of you. So she definitely is talking to you guys frequently, maybe even sometimes to an annoyance, or she's just like every other day. She's like, "Hey, what's going on? I didn't see you." Just like, that was like we're working.
The Pearl Network has now just become the group Discord
the group
channel.
chat. Yeah, pretty much.
And because Keo is just looking for anything to fill her days with, anytime Ash is like, "Hey, I miss you guys," like in a burst of flame, Keo's just like right in front of her, like, "Hey, you want to do something?"
Yeah, just like, yeah, I'm off my studies in like 3 hours. You want to go?
No, let's go right now.
Oh, fuck yeah, okay, close. Ash. Yeah, exactly. I know I actually did not talk to you about this, Rojan, but I did see like griffins tend to live roughly, depending on the type of griffin, they usually on average live about like 150 to 170 years. So I imagine Sarah's still alive, but definitely has lots of kids.
She's a granny griffin now.
She's a granny.
the type of griffin that Sahara is have the if not like killed in combat or anything, have the life expectancy of dragons.
Oh shit, yeah, she alive.
Yeah.
She's still around. She just had
'Cause
lots of babies.
You remember that like once she grew to a certain size, she gained the ability to speak
Yes.
to everyone. So
Yes.
they're on level with dragons. They just develop a bit slower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So of course Sahara's still alive. She's still her adventuring buddy. They're still going off and doing their thing. May or may not have collected more pets along the way. Maybe Sable is now old enough to come with her. If none of you remember Sable, that's her displacer kitten that she had at the time, no longer a kitten, full-blown cat. So of course, Sable will come every so often. And then, the last little tidbit is that Ash actually does try to track down that hag that fucked with her, that made her think that she was like her true mother. And she was just like, that's not cool. Like that's fucked up what you did. Plus she also kind of fears for her. She doesn't know how she's doing it, like getting in her memories and stuff like that. When they first met, that she's like, I don't want you to come after my family. So it's more of her wanting to deal with the problem, so she doesn't have to kind of wonder if one day that hag comes back and like does something with her children or whatever, because she's very much protective of her friends and children. So she always gets really close to finding this hag's location. Sometimes she does find the location, but the hag always seems to be one step ahead of her. As to there are plans with her, from what I was told. So yeah, Ash was never able. She's still continuing to this day, 60 years later.
I mean, technically 60 days.
Yeah.
60
too.
days. To her,
Yeah.
it's like 60 days in a lifetime. So yeah, that's the kind of one unfinished business, which is hilarious because everyone keeps talking about the red dragon, and I'm like, whatever. It's just
I mean,
whatever.
Hag business is never finished. So
No.
Nope.
I think that's something
Nope.
she's probably going to be dealing with for the rest of her unnatural life.
Yeah, pretty much.
Having a hag like notice you is having like a duckling imprint on you. It's just never gonna.
Yeah, and pretty much just like what Rose said, it's just like the rest of her bloodline. We kind of try to take out the biggest threat to the family because I leaned in hard to what the Kobold Press said about Dampiers, about how like the blood is their bond, like family is like the strongest bond they could ever have, which is why I loved her dynamic with her family as well as how she treats her friends. So yeah, having something like that be out there being a potential threat. Granted, nothing has really happened with the hag. Like the hag hasn't like done anything to her physically, but the hag has been heckling her, like every so often sending her messages that are really unsettling to her. Things like, hey, I would love to see my grandchildren someday. And she's just like, that's terrifying. First of all, no. They're not your grandkids, bitch. Second of all, it's just terrifying. So yeah, that is unfortunately the last little bit of unfinished business outside of their whole adventure that she's really gunning to try and settle whenever she can. And obviously 60 years later, that's still the case, which is also still unsettling. She has the time, just like the hag has the time, but that's a lot of time. So
I
yeah.
do have one question.
Yes.
What have they done with that island that Turok won?
Oh my god. Okay, so she definitely contacted several people, some that even her father has connections to build, of course, a home on there. They decided it's really far away from everything, so they didn't want to really make it like their permanent home or anything, just like it's their second house.
The summer home.
The summer home, basically. Speaking of, she does rebuild the old family home. It was set on fire. Thanks, Keo. She just rebuilt that.
Did Keo? What wasn't that?
That was
Was it-
Dice.
That was
It was Dice.
no
wasn't it?
Dice. No, Dice was not there
Oh
anymore.
no,
Which
It
no,
was
one
that's
did-
right.
Keo.
Which one did Keo? Oh, okay, yeah, she did.
Yeah.
She cast
No,
Firestorm
Dice
in the middle of that
desecrated
house. Okay, yeah.
her mother's tomb,
Yes, that's right.
which thank God was made of stone, so nothing happened. Like even her sarcophagus was like the classic stone, so thankfully nothing was destroyed. But Keo burnt down her family.
Yeah,
somehow,
and I
so,
remember
yeah.
we there was something
Yeah.
that was attacking us in there, and
Oh, it was
Keo's-
creepy.
Keo's answered everything's fire. So,
Yeah.
maybe not the best choice in a wooden house.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If Ash had the ability, maybe she would have too, because she woke up to that creature hovering over her face.
Yep.
Crying, and she was like,
Yep.
"Oh, get the fuck away from me." So yeah, it was just fire bad. She's got a Frankenstein mentality now. She's 2 times fire has literally burned her, and she's like, fire bad. Which I guess is appropriate for a vampire, but still.
I think it's appropriate for everyone. Generally,
true.
fire bad.
That's true. Very true.
Yeah.
So no, it's more of an island that they actually use it a lot for training too. Like her boys go there frequently. Of course, they got a teleportation circle set up there. Of course, she made sure that her family and friends had permission to go there if they wanted to, kind of like a timeshare situation. So of course, the house is huge, has like lots of rooms, lots of things, lots of space, so she can keep like, you know, whatever creatures and animals she finds or adopts on there. So yeah, no, it's literally like a summer home / timeshare amongst her friends. And of course, you know, made sure they were connected to the teleportation circle so they can get there if they needed to and all that good stuff. So yeah. It's what they do now, so she can have all the beach days she wants.
Rosa, yes, Turok is still alive. Technically, with the
Yes,
the gnarled
heart.
gnarled heart, he is technically immortal.
Yeah. So
And
like I said
ageless.
before, he's older. Technically, when I'm sure he still ages, but it's like this.
Oh, no.
Oh, he doesn't age anymore. Okay,
He
so he's
doesn't,
39
like-
for the rest of his life.
He looks the same that he did when he first got the heart from the Master of the Hunt.
Yeah, he's middle aged technically for an orc, and he's rugged and hot forever and ever.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he got the heart at like peak attractiveness, so worked out totally in his favor.
Which I did write down all ages. He's 39 for the rest of his life, so you know. And how I drew him, I'm just like, for centuries, baby. So yeah, Turok is still very much alive. It's funny because, not to make it sound sad, but unlike Zael, her and her whole family are still very much alive. At least all of her family. But yeah, that's the life of damn pure blood for sure.
that-
and then all
that-
so yeah.
That's the blood of high undead.
Yep. And like I mentioned before, Sahara's still alive because this particular griffin lives like an ancient dragon. So guess what? She's gonna be around and probably grow old with Ash. So
And as we've
this will be
seen
great.
in campaign 3, she's already had a bit of offspring as
great grandbabies. Great
as
great
the
babies.
boys have a griffin of their own.
So yeah. So far so good.
So
Ending.
I have some questions.
Yes.
So Ash kind of like delved into the political side of ruling her people in a sense.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that made the dynamic between Ash and Zael so good throughout that campaign was, even though they're both from 2 completely different worlds, a lot of the things that they were dealing with kind of ran parallel to each other. And one of those things being, you know, the world has some thoughts about vampires, let's say. And Felloc, as we knew it during the campaign, was a fairly secluded town. I mean, they had that silk trade that kept them going as a town, but it was fairly secluded. Did Ash do anything to integrate Felloc more with the rest of the continent? And if she did she face troubles in that department, trying to battle against these stereotypes and conceptions that the world has about vampires?
It's actually still a work in progress for a couple reasons, actually. One is that she's still establishing relationships with the Vampire Isles and seeing what that will entail. Are there more vampires coming? Are they just going to kind of stay where they are? She's not sure yet. But from what she has experienced, there was actually a couple things that you guys never knew about in the campaign. When she was really little, well, you guys already know this part, but she basically was forced to stay in her castle for, her whole life because of how people felt about vampires and everything. So, as Ash does when she was really little, when she was still a child, she actually would escape. She would sneak out to kind of like go on her own little adventures and everything. And she actually made a friend through someone in the village. And you have to look up the story. I actually wrote the whole scenario out, but basically, long story short, the friend found out she was actually a vampiric blood and was kind of cool with it at first, but her brother didn't like that because her brother was very protective. And over the years, I think it's kind of foggy, I should have looked this up beforehand, something happened to the point to where the brother accidentally killed someone because it was the older sister of the friend, that's right, came up behind Ash and stabbed her, tried to stake her, basically. Thankfully missed. Granted, that would have killed anyone, regardless. Missed her, but of course she was still a child. She was only like, I think 13 or 14 at the time. And her brother went into a rage and slaughtered her, basically, just a blind fury. And because, he thought his sister was gonna die. So since then, at that point, thankfully, the town was pretty tense, and over the years it got a little better. So because of that, she's slowly easing into relations. Like the town and her and everyone are fine. She's trying to open up a road currently between the forest and the rest of the world, or the continent. The only problem is that this forest is very special. It's one of the reasons why they chose to have the village on the other side of this forest. There's a lot of dark and twisted things in here, as we, for a small amount of time, experienced. One of them being very large, very creepy ass looking spiders, hence the silk trade. So it's kind of hard to carve a road through it, especially to make it safe. So that's one of the main issues, is trying to make that work while at the same time easing into seeing how vampires can be back into society. So it's, unfortunately, this is a very long-winded way of me saying, like, unfortunately it has not happened yet, but it is a work in progress because she wants it to happen. Because she does not want other people to be secluded like she was the first 200 years of her life. So she wants to be able to go out without, fear and prejudice against her kind. So, which her boys have no problem with it. Because they don't look like a traditional vampire, because as you saw from some of the pictures, they have like little tusks and everything too to kind of represent their orcish side. So they blend in real easily. So if they see things, they're just like, orcs.
Orcs, exactly.
Orcs. So, yeah.
Something to maybe look forward to the next time we visit the continent.
Mm-hmm. I'll also have to ask Rojan about that too, because that's entirely up to Rojan what the progress has been between her brother and the Vampire Isles, because she'll get letters and messages from her brother, of course, but I don't know what the progress is like on that.
You will learn that in campaign 3.
Well, there we go.
That that is a planned arc for campaign 3.
Oh my god, I'm so excited now.
Which is why I need to reach out to Vampire Islands.
You just like stopped talking halfway through that.
Oh no! Again, I'm talking low.
Oh, sorry.
Let me turn my mic up. That I said that's why I need to reach out to HBFox and give them the MS Paint version of the Vampire Isles.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was something that I recall that we talked about when you first gave me a draft of ODAG. You had mentioned that this is just a section of what the overall map will be, and that got me really excited. And you told me very vaguely what the other parts of the map might be. So I don't know any of the details. I don't know what's going to happen story-wise. I don't know any of that. But I do know there's plenty more map to come.
Yep, that's why the map of ODAG right now is so small, is because you haven't really visited the other neighboring islands.
Although, if I understand correctly, it is a smaller continent, definitely way smaller than the previous world, but
Yeah.
it does have expansions, but it's still a very small continent by comparison.
Once we finish banishing Lathander from the land, we can travel to the other islands and continents around us.
I feel like that's the end game here, is we just gotta destroy that fucker.
That's the
I don't
end
know if
game
he's
for
actually the
every.
official
For me,
big
for
baddie.
every campaign that I'm in, the end game is always to get rid of Lathander.
Except it's not really Lathander. Just, you know what?
Man,
You
you're
do
just
you,
Close
buddy.
enough.
You're hating on the wrong god.
I know exactly who I'm hating on.
Oh god. All right.
Coming
anything
for you,
else?
Lathander. I'm coming for you.
Oh god. Literally. You had your chance in the candy campaign.
Oh no,
Or, sorry.
I'm rolling this out slowly. I started with destroying his home plane. Now I'm coming after him.
The funny thing is he isn't even a part of that plane.
Not
Like-
anymore. I destroyed it.
Like in the sense of campaign 3, Lathander is a bit displaced because like the gods of the Forgotten Realms aren't native
Yep.
to this world, to this like plane of existence, and somehow Lathander wound up here.
You even
Yeah,
played a
we-
character that was a devout priest to Lathander, and that confused me. I was like,
that
wow,
hurt
someone.
me. Hurt me to do that.
I
Priest of the
respected it,
sun.
though.
Went as far as painting his symbol on my forehead for the duration of that campaign. Oh, it burned every time I did it.
I'm so sorry. All right. Any other questions about Ash?
I know you said the island was a training ground.
Yes.
Does she bring in fledgling adventurers to train them?
Ooh, that's a good question. I honestly never thought about it. She definitely goes there to train with her boys. Because what is it? He is a ranger battle master is one of her boys. So of course, her being a battle master herself is, training and whatnot. And of course with her adopted child, who stands out like a sore thumb, definitely has a nice safe place to train and whatnot. I feel like she probably eventually would, maybe, because her father definitely did it. She, of course, is not going to join any order. She's not going to really lend out her services to an order either, but I think she would. I just don't know what her in would be, per se. She adopts a lot of animals. I don't know how she would adopt fledgling, so that could be something for her in the future. That actually would be good, because they actually have like actual training grounds. Like they have dummies set up, they have obstacle courses. The island's big enough that they have all that, so it would definitely be a place. They would just have to set up like little barracks here and there, and it could be done. But no, as of right now, no, she does not actually.
question for both of you.
Okay.
Now that Damon and Kel have been introduced, and Kel has mentioned how they are pretty much members of a new order of hunters that have been formed. What are Keo and Ash's feelings about
I want to say depends what's the order, but I feel like that's hush right now.
that? It's the order is pretty much the same thing that they originally were supposed to be to begin with. Is they're just monster hunters. They're just out there taking care
Ah.
of bigger problems.
You know what? Ash would actually be okay with that. As long as they're not part of any kind of paladin kind of order, but part of just their own order of monster hunters. Yeah, no, she's like, my babies are doing great things.
Yeah,
So, yeah, she's
this
for it.
order is less about bringing, like, trying to take the light and vanquish evil, and it's more just like a ragtag band of adventurers, like a brotherhood that just, when things need to be taken care of, they're there to answer the call.
Yeah, no, I'm totally for that. I think that'd be fun. In fact, Ash would be jealous. She'd be like, "Can mommy come?" Mommy wants to come.
And
She has a great relationship with her kids too. Like her kids, they're not the type where like if Ash were to like fight alongside them or show off a little bit, they wouldn't be like, "Oh God, mom," like be all embarrassed. They'd be like, "Mom's fucking cool." Because they do the same thing with their dad too. They're like, "My dad badass," you know. So
I mean,
they have a
they do the
great
same thing with
relationship.
each other, as we've seen as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, here's a bunch of highly trained Goliaths trying to kill me. I'm just gonna keep flat blading them.
I mean, if Ash was there, she would have, Ash would have done the same thing. She'd be like, all right, let's do this. Let's see what happens. My boys. So what about Keo then?
Keo, I think, I don't think she'd trust them as far as she could throw them, and she's not strong enough to throw anyone very far.
My boys are.
I don't think she would hold it against any individuals. Like, she probably doesn't look down upon Ash's kids or anything if they're a part of it, or just any other person that wants to join up and partake. But looking at it as an organization, I don't think she would trust it at all. Just going by the history of what she dealt with that one paladin and the order he was a part of.
That's fair.
And even, conglomerates as small as the shamans of Old Dagger Tree. Any group decision making, I think she just inherently does not trust and does not want anything to do with. That being said, I feel like she would often probably be in scenarios where she's like going after some big bad creature just as something to do, and end up bumping shoulders with some people from this group, and she wouldn't do anything to get in their way. It would be more like a you stay on your side of the room, I'll stay on my side of the room type of thing with her. And she wouldn't go after them. She wouldn't try to impede them, but she would be her typical grumpy self towards them.
Yeah.
Because little spoiler here. As you've seen in campaign 3 so far, one of the boys has that armor, has Hydra armor that was Vincent's.
Yeah.
So jealous.
With the rebirthing of the order, they have remastered forging that armor to where once a member of an order hits a certain plateau, they're gifted their own, like, quote unquote magic girl.
Does Ash get hers back? Does she get her wolf one back at all? Or something like
She
that?
can't, because a certain Goliath is in possession of
That
them.
bitch. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not
Nolani
gonna lie.
quite literally has Ash's armor.
I'm gonna put it out there, Rojan. Do with it what you will, but I'm not gonna lie. The moment Ash would find out that those can be like they're safe to use again, she would hunt that armor down. That is her armor. She puts it back.
The thing is Ash's armor was never purified.
Is it still not purified?
I made a comment to Gilly saying that you get the feeling that something is wrong with this armor.
Yeah,
like it is Ash's armor.
Yeah.
Rosa, no, the armor is no longer cursed to the wearer because it's no longer imbued with that light. It's no longer corrupted.
Except
like pretty much, yeah, except this one because this is like one of the original pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But Vincent was able to purify his with the use of the forge underneath the family home.
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to purify the one that Kaldros had.
Which one was his again? I'm trying to remember which creature was his.
Kaldros's?
Yeah.
I believe it was the dragon. He had the dragon.
Yeah.
What was the dragon? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when a hunter comes of age, we'll just say that they get to choose like what the look of the armor is. And I cannot wait for you to see what Kel's armor looks like.
Is it a griffin?
It's not a griffin.
Damn.
Anytime you want to get your armor back though, Ash, you know Keo's like a master at scrying. She can track it down, no problem.
It's very true. Again, my statement still stands. If it can be purified, she's still gonna hunt that damn armor down. So
why do I have a feeling that like you're going to scry to see where that armor is, and you're just going to see like Nolani and Kel making it?
She'd be like looking at his like scrying ball and be like, oh, "You go, boy, you go. We're trying to set you up for years." But at the same time, she's like, "So mommy needs to talk to you, girlfriend. She has something of mine."
They decided to scry right at the time of the end of the last session that we had. So they just watched them through that whole bath scene.
Yeah. I feel like Ash would definitely, if she doesn't go alone, she definitely would ask either Rose or Keo, or all three of them, to actually go and hunt it down. Because again, you all saw how attached she was to that armor. She's gonna look for that armor and get it purified. So do with that as you will, Rojan. But she's coming for it.
Hey, all you gotta say to Keo is, "I want this. Can you go get it for me?" She's gonna get it.
I found a way to save it. Let's go. We found a way to purify it. Let's just go find it. That's another thing too. She does hunt down that third item. I was missing 3 items. It was the golden shield, the golden sword, and the golden armor. Got 2 out of the 3. She's hunting down that final one. I think it was the sword? She got the breastplate and she got the
shield. No, she didn't get the shield.
Oh, that's when I cut my finger off.
She failed the challenge. Yeah, she failed the challenge of the shield. She only has the breastplate.
Okay, I found 2 of the... No, I have the shield. It's the breastplate that I was trying to get, and I couldn't. Yeah, I have the shield, not the breastplate. You know what? She's making it a side mission to find the others because she found out something cool happens if you bring them all together, and she's like, "I'm the rest." Because she's a collector, guys. You know this. Look at her hag tomes. Look at her erotic novels. It's just, she's a collector, guys. You've seen her bag of holes. She's got a fuck ton of shit in there.
So actually, speaking of books, I do have a question about Ash. Don't worry, I'm not gonna try and dive into her novel collection. Let's just say that.
She'll share with you.
But
no, don't do that because I don't want to make up names for all of them.
Oh, I've got names ready to go. Don't you worry.
Okay.
So everyone from campaign 2, I imagine at this point, whether the world really knows the full extent of what happened or not, I imagine there is some sort of rumor or legend circulating somewhere about each person from that group, as is the natural cycle of adventurers. Is this something that Ash has or would embrace? This notoriety from this like folk hero status? Or is this something that she would try to like rebuff anytime a rumor or a legend or a story or whatever cropped up somewhere? Does she embrace this fame or does she turn away from it?
Oh no, she embraces it. She thinks it's so cool. Because she, coming from someone who's trapped in her, her castle for 200 years, knowing only of the outside world through, books and stuff like that, for her to finally feel like she's in stories is really cool to her. Now, granted, if they get information wrong and it like embarrasses her or makes her look bad, she's gonna be like, "No, that's not how it went," and she's gonna try to like rectify it. But no, for the most part, she thinks it's cool, and she actually thinks it may help with maybe showing that vampires aren't terrible creatures. So it's kind of a win-win for her. So she's loving it. She would love it. I feel like Keo wouldn't.
Yeah, no, anytime somebody like tried to approach Keo with any of these stories, she'd just be like, "Who are you? Why are you talking to me? Go away."
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, she would embrace it 100%. She thinks it's the coolest thing.
That tracks.
Yeah.
Although I guess for all the good it does for vampires, it probably does just as much bad, given that, the big bad of that story was also a vampire. We just omit that part. It's fine.
It's fine. We technically had two really bad. We had a lot of baddies, but in my mind, we had two really bad ones, and that was Grandpappy and the Fitch. So, they'll see the good she did on that other side. And she was like, "Yo, he wasn't alive, technically. He was sealed when I was born. It's fine. It's cool.
A Minotaur let him out.
It has nothing to do with me. I'm the victim here." Actually, I was the victim, so our whole family was the victim.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, that would be one of the stories that she would be like, "No, I swear." So, yeah. Goddamn cow. Yeah, Queenie, I feel like, well, I don't know. They both had their horrible flaws of, I don't think one was worse than the other. I think they both had their fair share of fuckery.
Yeah, I think Vincent was actively worse, and the Queen had the potential to be the worst.
She played the longer game.
Yeah,
that's for
we
sure.
Put a stop to her before her plans really came to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if they had come to fruition, it would have been worse for the world than what Vincent's plans were. But Vincent did more active destruction.
Yeah.
Queen did more planning destruction.
Yeah. And I mean, technically, they were both beings that had nothing but time in the world, but Vincent was like, "Nah, I was locked up. This shit's happening." While she was more like, yes.
I will say, if Vincent had succeeded in what he was trying to do, there would have been no reset this time around.
Oof. Yes.
I mean, depending on your perspective, it's not a bad thing. I think the worst outcome was for it to just keep resetting over and over and over.
No, the worst outcome is he succeeds, and now we have to build a completely new world.
Or we just play as undead characters in this one.
Oh no, it would have wiped out all of existence, all life and unlife. Like I think
he said vampires were the only things that were safe. I think he said, otherwise, it doesn't matter who you were, you'd be wiped out.
The thing is he failed in a certain aspect of his ritual to where it would have wiped out everything.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Because he got too ambitious and he tried to speed things along far too quickly because of your group's interference that he forgot like one key aspect he needed. And
We were
because of
thorn in
that,
a lot of people's sides.
you were. You were. As many friends as your group made, you made twice as many enemies.
Yeah, I mean,
Giant.
we did a lot of good in the world, but at the same time, a lot got destroyed that at some point probably could have been prevented, but we just decided not to. I mean, the destruction of Tharia, that definitely could have been stopped, but it still happened. The complete annihilation of Kamiraska,
No regrets.
That was
probably
No
could
regrets.
have been stopped.
That was you.
But
No.
we decided
That
to go
needed a
different.
reset of its own.
I mean, I don't think any of us regret it, but it is
No.
something that could have been prevented. And even the issue with Glimmercross, where it got overrun by Vincent's undead army, we could have stopped that.
Yeah.
We were on site before that army reached Glimmercross. We could have done something.
I don't think we had the manpower,
we
though.
opted for a different route. So we
Yeah.
did a lot of good, but a lot of things also got destroyed because of our decisions.
But that's also kind of the fun part of D&D is that
Yeah.
we can't save everything, and it's interesting to see the consequences of our decisions, whether they're good or bad, because a lot of horrible things were happening like simultaneously, and it's like, well, what's something that can help prevent it from being worse? And we did what we did. Yeah.
Having scenarios where you can't save everything and everyone, where you have to make those difficult decisions, are what really makes those stories come alive.
And that's like naturally what like burns into a DM story flowchart as to like, do they fail here? Do they ignore this? And it's like, how is the story going to progress if this happens? And like with a continent that was as big as Talander was, it was the story flowchart, but also timetables as to where if you didn't go here by a certain time, something was going to happen that you could have had a hand in, but you didn't. Since like how Tharia got royally screwed was because by the time you went there, things were so out of control that you couldn't do anything to necessarily help at that point. If you tried to interfere with what was going on, you would have died.
Yeah. But we did a lot of good to help. Like we saved from literal destruction of the world and the Fae bitch doing not quite the same thing, but just like basically pulling a like, hey, time for the Fae. And we're like, ooh,
no. Let's not do that.
Any of that.
We don't want the apocalypse or that crazy stuff. No. So yeah, let's not do that. But yeah.
Yeah, like I'm excited. Like if when this next series like spins off and whatnot, I'm excited for everyone to see what has happened to Kamiraska after the destruction and the rebuilding of the city.
Yeah, the little hints that we've gotten about that place in campaign 3 here from folks has me excited to see how it's doing now.
It definitely sounds like it's a better place to visit so far.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Without going into too much detail, it's definitely stepped away from the mages being the superior class of people in the city. Like it is still technically a very magicratic society, but at the same point, those who do not possess magic or anything still have a say in the everyday commerce and everyday law and whatnot. And it's more built like a kingdom now and less of a bunch of high class ruling mages and their non-magical slaves.
And slightly less secret ruling by a cabal of mind flayers.
Yeah, that too. We literally squashed them, so no regrets. So we're getting ready to wrap up here. Any last questions that you guys want to ask to wrap up?
How soon do you want to play the next game?
Right now.
Yes. Always, Rojan. Always.
Always.
So yeah, it's it'll be interesting. Now I already want to talk to you about characters and stuff. I'm gonna probably do that as soon as we're done with this. I'm gonna be like, so here's my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm thinking I have to maybe write out like a full bio for all of Zael's kids now, and like physical descriptions and everything of them.
Don't know what starting level I want to do. I think that's gonna like once we put out the feelers and we start bringing people in, do we start at level 1 or pick up to 3, maybe 5?
Well, if it's a mini campaign, then it's like how many opportunities will we have to level up?
It doesn't have to be a mini campaign.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Rojan. Don't do that to me. You know I want to get sucked in. Damn it.
I mean, we saw... I could see the addiction from the posts in Would Be Heroes about wanting to play more.
Yeah.
That's the problem with like mini campaigns and whatnot. It's just like as soon as you're done, you don't want to wait that extended period of time before you pick it back up.
No. Yeah. It'll be very interesting. So
yeah, and I find that addiction is like twice as strong when it comes to campaigns that take place in this world that we've been building over the last like 7 or 8 years. Because I want to know everything about it, and I want to discover everything about it.
Yep.
I want to revisit all these places, see how they change, and we could be doing this 7 days a week, and I'd still want more.
Yep.
Like I can say right now with Talindra, you have barely scratched the surface of anything in that world, or anything in those continents, I should say. And like you haven't even scratched the surface of like the entirety, the entirety of that world.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's I'm excited. Because again, that whole world is very near and dear to me. To go back to it, to not pretty much exactly as Fox said, it's like I want to rediscover and see how things have changed as well. Discover all the new things, and it still won't be enough because there's just so much. So yeah, it'll be very exciting. So yeah, we'll see what happens. So I'll send you stuff here in the next several minutes. I think at this point we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. We're going to put some feelers out to see who our next 2 guests are going to be, because part of it is a timing thing. Of course, we're gonna get everyone on here. It's just a matter of who's next. So I believe the plan is, if I remember correctly, yeah, because it's not. I don't know why I thought it was New Year's weekend when we do this again. Nope, it's a whole week after. So never mind. Don't have to deal with holiday stuff. So we'll be
the
on
New
the
Year's
6th.
one is for the Would Be Heroes game.
That's true. Yeah. And that's technically not even on New Year's Eve. That's the day after. So
New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve. So we'll be back on January 6th then. With to be determined guests, as long as everyone contacts Rojan about your epilogues. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Your goddamn epilogues.
It's really quick. It's more of like, here's my concept. Is this cool? Cool. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't even need the entirety of the history. All I need is if there are like important aspects that weren't covered in the game, or if there are important people that you want to make contact with or kill, let me know so I can tell you if that's okay or not, or if there are plans for them in the future.
Which I'll have a couple more details to tell you about that if you so choose to use it for Destiny Forged 2.5 or 3. So we'll get to that. But yeah, until then, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. This is not the only show that we have on this channel. as we are ever growing with more and more shows. We cannot get enough, and there's not enough days or hours in the week because we still want more. Especially since some of us want to do like, you know, like a Sanaa campaign or a Avatar, The Last Airbender campaign, and just there's so much, not enough time. But we do have our, as we just hear, our Destiny Forged, our longest running campaign, campaign 3, every Monday, run by Rojan. Then we have our alternating shows on, I skipped a day, Tuesday, every other week we do have our Star Wars 5e Tales of the Outer Rim, run by Tiltbot, which is actually this upcoming Tuesday. We have that running. Our alternating shows on Thursday, we have our Tricorn Isles, our High Seas campaign run by Rojan, and then our alternating game, Mass Effect Horizons, run by me with a Mass Effect 5e campaign. Then our 2 Saturday alternating shows, we have Withered Wastes, a post-apocalyptic campaign run by Rojan, and then a Pathfinder 2 Extinction Curse campaign run by Azarin, which I think they're on their last chapter before taking a small break, to determine when that is, but as of right now it is still Pathfinder 2. Then we have our brand new show, which is it's our once a month show that happens on the last Saturday of every month. We've only had our first episode so far of Would Be Heroes. It's our Kids on Brooms system that we use for a X-Men superhero inspired campaign that Rojan runs us through, and that the 4.5 hours we played was just not enough. To TBD to see if we do more on that, because we're all addicted. And then of course we have this show, first Saturday of every month, where we talk about lore across all of our campaigns. And again, the next several episodes are going to be on the epilogues of our Destiny Forged Season 2 characters, so keep an eye on who is coming next. Just a small heads up, with the month of December that being the holidays, we have been told that there might be extra hours put in by some of the DMs. So we apologize in advance if our games are a bit scarce for the month of December. That's not because we don't want to, we just have to work. So keep an eye out on that. I believe are we still planning on I almost said Halloween, Christmas one shot?
I want to, but again, it's seriously going to depend on
work.
On work. I should know more next week.
Okay.
Don't know what I have 2 ideas.
Ooh, okay.
One is going to be one is just going to be like a D&D themed one. And another one is going to be a Would Be Heroes themed one.
Ooh.
So I don't know.
Why not both? If only we had the time again. It'd be so nice. So Heroes Xmas are best. So if you miss any of our shows, we definitely put them up on our YouTube channel. So check it out on our socials and YouTube if you want to rewatch shows or catch up on shows. Until then, we will be back potentially Monday. Again, this whole month is tentative, guys. Again, we do apologize in advance, but we'll see if we will have Destiny Forged this Monday. Otherwise, I believe, for fact, we are here Tuesday for Tales of the Outer Rim for Star Wars. But until then, guys, you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.